So, with the FTC's potential crackdown on kid-friendly content, I might as well cover some truly adult material. Now, my channel is never intended for kids, of course, but with this video that should become even more apparent than ever. Bomb Queen features boobs, profanity, sexual content, gore, boobs, and more boobs. Did I mention boobs? Yeah, I'm gonna have to censor a lot in this video. Don't misunderstand though, Bomb Queen is not straight up porn. This isn't hentai. Sure, we get a lot of nudity, but it is really just the boobs. And butts, of course. And when I say sexual content, I don't mean explicit sex scenes. I'm talking about implied sex and sexual language. There's lots of perverted talk in the Bomb Queen comics, but none of it is ever actually shown. So just what is Bomb Queen and why am I talking about it? How is this raunchy comic relevant to my channel? Well, because it's about a villain. Bomb Queen, the title character, is a supervillain, and she appeared in her own comic as the protagonist. Bomb Queen first appeared in 2006 in a 4-issue miniseries simply titled Bomb Queen. It was published by Image Comics and was written and penciled by Jimmie Robinson. The character went on to appear in 6 more eponymous miniseries, as well as several one-shots and an issue of Savage Dragon. Most of this material was done by the character's creator, Jimmie Robinson. Out of all of this material, I've only read the first 3 miniseries. I tried to read volume 4 as well, but I just couldn't finish it. It wasn't very good. So let's dive straight into volume 1 and explore just who or what this Bomb Queen is. In the first Bomb Queen comic, we're introduced to Newport City. Newport City is your typical fictional comic book town, like Gotham City or Metropolis. Except, in this city, the superheroes lost, and a supervillain has taken command of the city, declaring herself the official dictator. This is Bomb Queen, of course. And that is the premise of the comic series. A city without superheroes, run by a supervillain. Already right there we've got an interesting hook. Bomb Queen is, however, not just a supervillain, but also a complete degenerate. She's an amoral pervert who loves sex and violence. This personality of hers has been forced onto the city as well, and most citizens, whether they like it or not, partake in such activities. Bomb Queen has molded Newport City in her image. In other words, it's a horrible city of sin. So-called free crime zones have also been established all over the city. Within these zones, all crime is legal. Criminals naturally congregate in these areas. Meanwhile, superheroes have been outlawed and aren't allowed entrance to the city, so no hero is legally allowed to go there and chase Bomb Queen out. All of this has been going on for about a decade, when Bomb Queen took over. While a lot of citizens have simply accepted the state of their town, there is a growing desire for change. The main plot of Volume 1 centers around the Newport City mayoral election. Yes, despite Bomb Queen's rule, the city still has a mayor. The mayor in place is just a puppet of Bomb Queen though, and obeys her every whim. However, for this election there's a new candidate in town, an idealist promising to make changes and dismantle Bomb Queen's rule. Meanwhile, there's also a new superhero in town, disobeying the no hero law and challenging Bomb Queen. The mayoral candidate takes this opportunity to officially support the hero and condone his actions, sparking up further anti-Bomb Queen sentiments in the city. Not before long, it becomes apparent that the sudden coinciding appearance of these new opponents is not a coincidence. The politician and the superhero are both part of a plot by the US government to take back control of Newport City from the mad Bomb Queen. I guess you can say the politician and the hero are the antagonists of the story, despite the fact they're actually the good guys. But that's what you get when the villain is made the protagonist. I'm not going to describe the plots of each series, but in Volume 2 we learn that before seizing control of the city, Bomb Queen used to be part of a supervillain team, the Four Queens. The other members were Ice Queen, Scream Queen, and Drama Queen. The other volumes reveal further information about Bomb Queen and Newport City, such as the fact her whole setup as ruler was put in place by the government. In fact, Bomb Queen was even created by the government, a lab experiment. She herself doesn't know any of this though and has been implanted with false memories. Newport City was set up by the government as a haven for criminals, causing mass immigration there by the criminal element, freeing the rest of the country of crime. Bomb Queen was meant to keep it all under control, but the government now no longer have her under control. Later it's revealed that the city itself might actually be supernaturally evil and is possessed by a demon, causing anyone, including law-abiding citizens, to become depraved criminals. Yeah, the series just gets sillier and sillier as it goes on, which is why I dropped out. The original concept was just fine. A supervillain who managed the unthinkable, defeating the heroes and taking command of the city. That's a great and very interesting concept. But, according to the later volumes, none of that was really true though, as it was the government who intentionally orchestrated all of this to establish a super prison. And then there's the supernatural aspect. It just went completely off the rails. So, no matter what volume we're talking about here, Bomb Queen is quite a unique series. Here we have a series with an absolutely despicable protagonist. She's a perverse sexual deviant. She's incredibly violent and murders people on a whim. Bomb Queen does not care about collateral damage whatsoever, and civilians getting caught in the crossfire means nothing to her. Yet despite that, she has a weird love for her city and her people, criminals. A strange pride, criminal pride. This series really pushes the limits of an unsympathetic protagonist. You don't really sympathize with Bomb Queen, and at times you just want her dead. I'm not sure if this really is a proper way to tell a story. Connecting with the protagonist in a piece of fiction is pretty important after all. But I will say that reading Bomb Queen was certainly interesting. It's almost more of an experience, a weird experience, than an engaging narrative. I guess that's the hook though, experience a superhero comic told through the eyes of a horrible villain, not read a compelling story. Of course, with all of that said, you're not really supposed to take Bomb Queen too seriously. This isn't really some brilliant, thought-provoking masterpiece. That's not what it was supposed to be either. It's a gratuitous, sometimes mindless display of boobs, butts, and gore. That's what it mainly is. It's meant to shock and provoke, and also to be funny. Bomb Queen is really at its core a very morbid, dark comedy. I guess you could compare it to South Park in a way, a show that also features a lot of vulgar humor. Bomb Queen isn't nearly as clever as South Park often is, of course, but it has a pretty similar tone. One perfect example of the humor in Bomb Queen is this scene. In it, the queen is fighting an assassin sent by the government. A kid is caught in a crossfire. Bomb Queen then leaps towards the kid, and it seems like she's going to save the kid and take him to safety, like a hero would. But instead she picks him up and uses him as a human shield. That's horrible, really horrible, but it's also really funny, and it made me laugh. That's the Bomb Queen series in a nutshell. Well, that and boobs. What further adds to the carnage and piles of dead civilians is Bomb Queen's signature bombs. As her name suggests, Bomb Queen employs a vast array of bombs. That's her gimmick. She doesn't have any actual powers, at least not first, only bombs. She's got small bombs, massive bombs, incendiary bombs, nuclear bombs, and she likes to toss them around wherever she goes, not caring who gets blasted. As horrible as it is, whenever she arbitrarily blows up an entire crowd of people, you can't help but find it amusing. It's the bluntness of it, and how over the top the Bomb Queen's destruction is. Still though, at least for me, sometimes enough is enough. You can only take so much carnage and depraved sex jokes. I think, ironically, Bomb Queen is best served in small doses. I can't really say I'm a fan of this series, but I will say I'm intrigued by it. It's an interesting, weird, and totally bonkers anomaly among superhero comics. The first volume is certainly worth a read, especially if you're a big fan of villains. I mean, haven't you ever wanted to know what would happen if the villain actually won? Of course, not every villain is as depraved as Bomb Queen. I doubt Lex Luthor would have turned Metropolis into a haven for rapists and the KKK. There are some interesting ideas explored in Bomb Queen too, especially in the first volume. Bomb Queen is the big evil villain. She's the one who's forced a depraved way of life on Newport City. Most people, of course, blame her for the city's current state. But it is heavily implied that a lot of the so-called ordinary citizens are evil and depraved too, deep down. They wouldn't have acted on this in another city, but now they have a perfect excuse. So it's not really Bomb Queen, it's all of us. Given the right circumstances, any one of us could become horrible people. I don't know if I agree with that, but it is an interesting idea regardless. Of course, the later volumes ruin this by claiming the city itself is evil in a supernatural sense, and anyone who sets foot in it will become evil. So, it's not social commentary, just people possessed by demons. Yeah, I've chosen to disregard the later volumes. The Bomb Queen series also feature a lot of satire poking fun at mass media, in particular American-styled news shows and reality shows. Newport City has its own TV channels, and they're all very over the top. So, in conclusion, Bomb Queen is a juvenile, gratuitous display of tits and gore. But it's also very funny, and it also has some very interesting ideas. It's a weird mix of different things, and it certainly isn't for everyone. If you're easily offended, stay far away from Bomb Queen. But if you can take a little filth and insanity, then I suggest you check out the first series. Maybe the second one too. It doesn't negate anything from volume 1, and it is the only volume to portray Bomb Queen in a somewhat sympathetic light. Sympathetic for Bomb Queen, anyway. So there you have it. That's Bomb Queen, the kinky and uber-violent supervillain comic series. A very obscure series too, so those of you who have been clamoring for more forgotten supervillains, well, this was kinda that. I have plans to talk about more weird comics, and might make this into a new series. Not all of it will be about obscure characters though, there's plenty of odd stories featuring our favorite villains after all, and this series would be a perfect excuse to cover them. Anyway, as always, remember, Arkham Asylum awaits you in the next video. Unless I'm deemed kid-friendly, of course.